Hello and welcome guys to this YouTube channel where we are going to talk about web programming. It's Simple Tech with Tony_G. And today we are going to dive into the bare minimum of us getting started with web programming. We are going to learn tools that are going to help us start with web programming. If you are a beginner, don't worry, this is the best course for you. Today we are going to start with simple tools, that is HTML and CSS, which describe the basic structure of our web page and the basic concepts. Like we can use HTML to create the contents of our web page. Say we want to create a header banner or some text or some paragraph for our description of the web page, or some image or some videos. We are going to use HTML to create all those contents of our web page, as we are going to use CSS to style the page content. For example, we may want some section in the web page to look with some background of our custom need, or to the color that your client desires you to have them in the website, as the primary, secondary, and maybe some colors as you or the client might need. And as we are going to dive, I'm going to show you a simple code here of a simple structure of our web page, and we are going to look at the DOM content of our web page. That is the tree structure of how elements are structured within the HTML document. And as we can see from this snippet of a code extracted from a simple website that was created somewhere else, we are having a simple structure. We are defining the type of the HTML of the document we are creating, that is the HTML document, and we are having various tags here. We are going to dive deeper into each and every tag as we are going to add more. For our first tag here, HTML, it has attributes, and so we are going to look at different attributes that every HTML element can take. There are others that can be taken for every HTML, and there are others that are specific to a given HTML tag. And for every HTML tag, as you open it, there is a closing HTML. For example, you are having an HTML tag that encloses all the codes, the HTML codes for this our page, and the closing tag is here. As we are going to do more practice, we are going to understand how we should avoid the syntax errors during our programming. And as you can see here, we are having the simple structure. We are having this head section and the body section. The head section is going to have important details of our web page. For example, we are going to have our document as the title of the website. There, the top of the tab in your browser, we are going to have a name. For example, Google is going to have its own tab. For example, our web page, that is the document, we are going to identify our web page in the tabs as the document. We are going to have a simple style here for this our web page. We have selected the body, and we are defining its background color here to be blue for this our web page. And we're going to have the body section. The body section is where we are going to have all the details for our website to be displayed to the client or to the target users of this web page. We are going to look at different tags, from as simple as a heading tag to as complex as the functionalities of our web page, making them interactive. We are going to learn about user interactivity or responsiveness of our website. That is going to bring about a clear and proper user interaction with the web page. For example, you're going to have a button which is going to perform a given task, and for it to do so, we are going to utilize a tool, a programming language that is called JavaScript. JavaScript is going to help us to do as many things with its function and its power of manipulating the DOM of the web contents. and it's going to use its powerful functions to do different tasks in our web page. We are going to have functions that are predefined and our custom defined functions. For example, if we had a form, as I've shown you on the screen, this is a simple script obtained from a simple website. Maybe this person wanted to submit some form data for verification. Say it's a login form, and you're going, for this instance, it's a login form because we have selected the form from the main document as that was given an ID of login form, as you've seen here. We're going to learn more about this. This is an event attached to a document that tells us that if the DOM content of a web page is loaded, we're going to have a callback function that performs given tasks as given logic or operations as we've defined here. This is going to select the form using the ID. We are going to learn about selectors, and attached to the form selected is an event that is an on submission, and it's going to perform some simple functions here. Next, we are going to talk about databases. Databases are going to be used in our website or in any system or software or website to store data about what we've been doing and what we are defining for our website. For example, if it's a Facebook, we are going to have data, your data stored in Facebook. That is maybe your posts or maybe your data about your user logins and everything. It must be stored in a given database. For this our instance here, we are going to start with SQL, and we will scale up to use even advanced non-SQL tools for our database manipulation. For example, for SQL, we are going to create a database. As we are going to create a database, we are going to utilize simple predefined functions that are abstracted to this functionality. For this, we are going to, the create database is a predefined function that is written in SQL to enable us to create a database of our custom database name. For example, here database name, you can have the create database, say for example, company XYZ. And for this database to be properly aligned or maybe structured, we need tables to organize our database. And we're going to create table using the create table function, and then you specify the table name. You're going to define each column per table. For example, if you're having a user table, you are going to have column 1 maybe as email, and the data type of the column, that is, for example, it might be a string, it might be a number, it might be anything. And the third attribute, we have many attributes attached to every column. For example, for this one, we decided maybe column 1 can be as unique for this database. So we decided to put it as a primary key, and you can have the rest column 2 and column 3 and up to the one that you needed. For this instance, we just only needed column 1, 2, and 3. And therefore, we can insert data into the database. The database tables. We can have tables in the database, but if they have nothing in it, it's unuseful to the user or to the company. You're just having a lot of storage that you are preserved, that is preserved but not used. So we have to insert contents into our database. You're going to use the insert into the table name that you're going to specify. For example, if it's the users, and then the columns, we specify the columns onto which we are going to insert the values. Then you're going to use the keyword values and then after the keyword values, you are going to have the values aligned respectively to the columns we specified. For example, column 1 will have the data values from value 1. It cannot store the values for value 2 because it has to be in respectiveness of how the data is aligned as specified from the table. We are going to also select the data from the database. We can store them, but how can we access them? We use the select, and then we specify the columns we want to select from the table, and then we specify the table name. Then we are going to specify the condition. For say, for example, you are fetching data for your login. Say you are John. You are going to specify the John email and password from users where the condition is maybe the user meets the email john@gmail.com. Then you're going to have the updates. We can forget our password, as I can use it as an example. If we want to reset our password, you will use the update keyword for MySQL to update a given column in a table. For this instance, we are going to dive deep into every functionality, and lastly, we can delete data from the database, and many other more. We can have the joins and everything. We can link the table from this table to another table. Yeah, as we go further, we are going to discuss more about table functionality. And next, we are going to look at our powerful tools. These are powerful tools that are helping us to manage our code base and update them. For example, we're going to use GitHub as our code base where we store our data, our development. You as a developer, you're going to do some coding, and how are you going to have that code stored somewhere in the cloud, or maybe to some code base for you to just continue for the next time, or you just have it as a code base, then you host it somewhere else. You're going to use GitHub to store your codes for later updates, or maybe use it as a code base. And we are going to use Git to manipulate the different functionality between your desktop and the GitHub. For this instance, you're going to use it to push some codes, to initialize some repository, and link it with GitHub. We're going to discuss about the two further in the coming lessons. And now we are going to dive into a live code where we are going to use a code editor of your choice. For this instance, I chose to use VS Code. And for you to have VS Code, in case you never had it, you are going to download it online. You are going to open your browser. In your browser, you're going to search Visual Studio Code, and you click enter. It's going to give you a list of the search result, but you're going to go to the first result, which is the original website for Visual Studio Code, and it's going to give us the tool. You can use Sublime Text, you can use any editor of your choice, and any editor you feel it's comfortable working with. For this instance, you're going to download here for Windows. You can download also for Mac or for Linux, any operating system you're using. It has some documentation on how you can even go to the documentation and read more about how Visual Studio Code is developed, how you can maximize its utility. And for me, it's already installed, but if you have not installed it, you can head to the website and install it. Now we are going to dive into the code editor and try to code a live code, as we can have one, so that we know how things are going. So here you are going to create a folder somewhere in your PC or your desktop, and this folder is going to be created. Say for example, you head here to files, you open a new folder, a pop-up screen will appear, as so. And this pop-up screen, you will navigate to where you want to store the folder. For example, it's a desktop, and then within the desktop you might have various codes, various folders. You can have a folder, for example mine is here, and then I can scroll and find the one that I created For this instance, I had created my web, which is this one here, and we are going to navigate to our code and have it opened here. So we are going to create a file, our first web application, website. For this instance, we are going to understand the difference between our website and our web application later in the course. For this instance, you are going to navigate to the top of this. If you see your folder name at the top of this left panel, then know you are in the right folder. You are going to click here and we create, for example, for this our instance, index.html. It will open a new file, and by default it has some assistant there, but you can just code it. For this our first, we are going to just create a simple website, a simple document structure of our website. We are going to define it as a doc type as HTML, document type of HTML. We're going to open our main container that will hold all the codes, the HTML codes that we are going to use during this our development for this our simple application. So we use an HTML tag, and as we close it, it also has a closing tag automatically. But depending on the code editor of your choice, some it will not autocomplete. You will have to type the closing tag. But for this one, it has helped us to close the other one. So we are going to have two sections after the HTML. We are going to divide this our website into a head, and we are going to have another section for the body. And in our head, we are going to define important things that are used in our website. For example, one of the most important thing is not to forget to have the title name of our website. For example, I can call it my website. This title is going to be displayed at the top of the tab of the website page you are opening. And for this our simple one, we are going to display hello as our first on our web page, and the file will be available, so we need to navigate to where the file is. But there is a simple way. We don't have to be too technical, and there are simple tools we can use. You can go to your extensions here if you are using VS Code, and you just look for live server here, and it's going to give you, it appears at the top, and you will know it because it has a lot of downloads. Yeah, you will have to install it, provided that you are connected to a good internet. And then on install, you will navigate back to your folder structure, and then you will right click on the file, and this section will appear open with the live server. If you press, it will start a live server on port 5000 on our local host 5500. So we are going to navigate to our browser of our choice. For this instance, I'm using VS Code. Yeah, I'm using VS Code and Chrome for this instance. So we are going to navigate to a new tab, and we are going to type the URL of the web page we have created. For this instance, it's locally in our machine, but later we are going to learn on how we are going to publish it online so that you can have your friend see what you've done. And now let's navigate. We are going to local host, then we have the colon. It was localhost 5500, and as we click enter, and here we create our first web page. And now we are going to dive into doing some styling for our web page. As we can see, we've just displayed hello world. Now let's go back to our code editor, that is the VS Code for this our instance, and do some changes as we want to style the contents of our web page. Now we'll use a simple tag here called the style tag that is going to enclose every style that we attach to any selected element. For this our instance, we are going to use a simple selector, that is we are going to select element by their tag name. Therefore, they don't have any manipulation, but later we are going to see how we can select it using different ways, say the ID, say the class name. We are going to see it more later. But for this our first one, we are going to be as simple as using the tag name, that is the body tag, and then you just open the and close the curly braces here, whereby you are going to put all the styles that we need to style for the head. For this instance, you are going to style the background color, background hyphen color as blue, as we had seen it before. So if I save it and we navigate back to our Chrome for this instance, or the web browser of your choice, if I refresh it, and we have the changes here updated. Since we are using the live server, it automatically refreshes the website with updates. So we are going to go back to the code and add a little bit of functionality to the code, so that we can have the interactivity and different looks of our web page. Now we are going to add here, say the title for this our web page, the banner or the title or the biggest, or maybe a heading. In this case, we are going to use the H1 for heading 1. We are having heading 1, heading 2 up to heading 6, which is the smallest heading, and heading 1 as the biggest heading. So if I decide to have profile as my heading 1 and I save it, and if I navigate back to our browser here, we can see it's getting updated and becoming a little bit more bigger, because we are having it as a heading 1. We are having heading 1 to heading 6, as I said. For example, if I decide to put this hello as the heading 6, this way, it will appear the smallest heading on this website. If I refresh it here, that is how it's becoming smaller, even smaller. But we don't want to have it as smallest as we have seen, because we want we want things to be displayed to our client, so that they are able to view them and read them. So we are going to add a little bit of a story, or maybe some testimony, or maybe a paragraph explaining what this section entails, or this website entails. For this instance, we are using the p tag for paragraph tag, that is going to, for example, say this is my first website. And if I save it, and say, for example, maybe I might decide to add also the interactivity, say a button that says, it's just English, it just uses English words to represent the elements. For example, if you wanted a button, you just type button. As long as you just open it and close it, sorry, we just have the button, the opening and closing. Say we say click me, as we having it this way. If I save it and we navigate back to the browser, let me see whether we can navigate here. If we navigate back to the browser, you can see we are having this click me button here. And if I click it, nothing is going to happen, because we don't have the functionality that is going to take action when this button is clicked. That will invoke the function to take action, maybe to submit or to give an alert. So for today, we've just learned the basics from history to creating a simple website, and we are going to dive into the functionality of JavaScript that is going to add the interactivity to this web page. Say if we click me, it has to give me an alert that you've clicked me, or maybe submitting, or maybe any functionalities that we may want. You can just test it on your own. You can just give it a break, so that you can internalize what we've learned. But later you can keep on trying as you get the content stick with you. For this lesson, I can say thank you, and if you find this knowledge useful, I am so thankful. You can like, you can subscribe, and you can even share so that the content reaches out to your friends and the friends of your friends, and will help the channel grow. Thank you.